Good morning and welcome to the talk. Thank you so much for tuning in today. This is our Daddy Leagues podcast that we do just to talk to some commissioners that are out there. We've got some really great commissioners in the Madden CFM community, and that's what this is all about. This is about plugging in with those guys, finding out what they do, how they do it, what they think about the Madden that we're playing, and what do they think about the Madden that we're going to. And so we've got our buddy Logan with us. Logan, how you doing this morning? Bright and early on a Saturday morning.
I'm all right. Besides my fight I had with my dishwasher, that's why I'm a bit wet this morning. But
You shouldn't fight with dishwashers. They win
no,
every
I
single
lost.
time.
I lost.
Yeah, they win every single time. Well, don't worry. I'm over here dodging tornadoes and storms, so I might end up getting wet for a totally, completely different reason later on. So we'll try to stay safe and don't fight dishwashers anymore. We'll make that a part of the gimmick here. Um, let's just jump right into this thing, man. We started this back. So for those who don't know, we started doing some podcasts back before Madden 18 began, called CFM Roundtables, and the whole point behind it was to start gathering a bunch of community commissioners and leaders together just to talk about the game, talk about what we're looking forward to, and kind of all of the stuff that came with that. And this Madden truly was a captivating Madden for both reasons, right? A lack of information, a lack of what's going to happen, a lack of CF improvements, and so we started those and they were successful in their moment. And then the game got here, and as I figured would happen, everybody gets busy running their own CFMs, and nobody really has time to do roundtables. But this cycle is starting on the down cycle, and we're going to start turning our attention here in the next few months towards Madden 19. So I thought it was a great time to start pumping some content out and plugging in with some commissioners. And I think that the thing that's going to be a little bit different about this podcast will be it'll be a one-on-one, and whenever I can't get people, I'll just do them by myself. But the point will be to talk about how do you build a really good CFM, like what are the things that go behind that, and then also talk about a little bit of Madden 18, a little bit of Madden 19, and that's what we're going to do with Logan today. So Logan, tell people a little bit about your background, a little bit about your CFM. Why should people care about Mr. Logan and his voice?
Well, my CFM is Gridiron Gamers, and we've been around for almost 10 years. It will be 10 years in August, which is a great accomplishment
It's
for us.
amazing.
And what I love about our league is we have a core group of guys we've had pretty much from the beginning, but we always evolve, to do little things different. To I wouldn't stay current because my goal is never to stay current. Like you'll hear some commissioners say, "I want to stay full." That's never my goal. My goal is to make it as fun as innovative as I can for my group of guys. So we started out being an international league. Um, the commissioner at the time, I was the co-commissioner, had a brilliant idea of bringing together a community of people from all around the world. Problem with that is, all around the world, you got time differences and everything else. That didn't really work. But what I loved about it was the community aspect. So that's what I've really pushed for the last 10 years is building our community, building a community where we can play together and have the same common goals. And it's really worked well for us. And we're on the PlayStation 4, and we started on the PlayStation 2. So we've never went to Xbox. I know some leagues were on an Xbox and a PlayStation. I never really liked that crossover. I don't know. I've always been a Sony guy.
Yeah, I mean, we've always been a PlayStation League. Also, I'm always super intrigued. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole today, and I doubt it will ever happen. But cross pollination of the two platforms would just be a really amazing feature. I doubt it will ever happen. Right? There's a lot of people that doubt that will ever happen, but it's just a neat concept to be able to expand. Right? Like you would just have a Madden CFM, not a Madden Xbox League or a Madden PlayStation League. You would just have
Mm-hmm.
one that people could play together. It just would be a neat concept. So, talk about Madden 18 a little bit. Talk about your CFM. Where have been the high points and the highlights and things that have went really well because of the new game, and some low points? Where have been some struggles with the new game and some things that you guys have had to figure out?
Um, Well, the beginning stages were always difficult because here's the thing. I think a lot of people thought Frostbite was going to be the saving grace for a lot of gameplay issues. Okay. Everyone thought, oh my God, Frostbite's going to make the game look better. People were going to come in, that might not have played CFM and play CFM. That was the saving grace because me and you both know we weren't going to get any features. There wasn't going to be a groundbreaking feature. We kind of heard about that from the EA Play, from the guys. There wasn't going to be a feature, but everyone was hoping that gameplay would improve with the Frostbite engine. I think we can both say that Frostbite had an effect on Madden this year, but not the effect either they were hoping for or that they were selling to us. And maybe that's why we didn't see much footage. Obviously, that's a speculation, but I think it's pretty safe to assume maybe that's why. So our biggest problem in the beginning was, where do we go? Do we go all Madden, all pro? Where do we go with sliders? I mean, sliders have always been a hot button topic with everyone in the league. And we do what probably 90% of leagues do. We do a tester a franchise when we first start, tournaments, stuff like that, just to get people playing and testing. And it was very difficult because zones were broke in some ways, but not broke in other ways. Like, if you got zone coverage where you liked it where they covered the middle, then it felt like the flats were just you couldn't pass the flats. The flats would be overpowered or they would be too weak, and the middle would be, so the zones just didn't work together. If that makes sense. Excuse me. So that was the biggest problem, and we finally just found a balance and said, hey, look, this is the best we can do. And then some patches helped, and then they hurt. How that goes. And then there's just the whole cycle. We had some people get just sick of this Madden and decide they're going to leave. We had some people, because of sliders and some other things, think, well, I can do it better. So you let those people go and do their own thing. But I think, if anything, this Madden has kind of brought us together because we're sitting at 31 owners right now. We're in a great shape right now because I think everyone finally admitted this Madden is what it is. So let's just have fun with this Madden. And I think once people kind of submitted to that mindset, we've had a lot of fun, especially in the last 3 to 4 seasons.
You mentioned something that came up with the podcast last time with Pootie T, who is my new favorite buddy. He actually joined our community and was just a contact that we made through the CFM podcast, right? And he's just a really good dude out there. But he mentioned something that you brought up again, so I want to kind of talk about it, and that is that all Madden, all pro dynamic there, and kind of the deciding factors, the pros and the cons that you guys feel about those two things. I know just for us personally, even going way back to when our community first started in 2001, we were always an all Madden league for a very, very long time. Probably all of PC days, we were an all Madden league. And then when we got into the console versions of the league, we got away from that. We just felt like all Madden, for various reasons, was just different. And we went all pro, and then we went back all Madden. And there's always been this constant hopping back and forth. So talk about it a little bit for your league's perspective. What are the pros and the cons? What were the deciding factors, and what made you lean one way or the other?
Well, first of all, I try never to say we're an all Madden league and that's the way it's going to be, or we're an all pro league. I always tell people sliders and settings are going to be different year to year. And that's how it should be, in my opinion. But we have leaned more all Madden in the past. But this year, we felt this all Madden was overpowered to the sense that ratings didn't matter. I know you spoke about this in the first podcast, so I won't drone on about it too much. But it was kind of that same concept where we just thought that all Madden played well in some ways, like they reacted better in some ways. But there was just some glaring things, like it didn't seem like they dropped enough passes on all Madden. It didn't it just felt like some things were just so off that to truly get the fair play or the sim atmosphere, the community atmosphere we were going for, we needed to go all pro. And I mentioned it when you asked me about my league. my league's a community league. I mean, not to plug Daddy Leagues, but that's kind of our atmosphere now. We go for the daddies, the adults, the guys that are kind of past their prime and just don't want to blow off that ego steam anymore. In fact, I have rules against running up the score and things like that because really what we want to do is just create a fun environment where we play strategic football, but not like competitive football. I've got away from that word, and I've turned away people just because they're like, I think I'm too competitive for your league, and I'm like, cool, that's fine. And we just thought that all pro, to go back to your question, it had more strategic elements. Ratings seemed to matter a little bit more. Um, skill seemed to matter a little bit more because we felt that all pro, or sorry, all Madden, everyone was just catching crazy things, and the animations were just turned up a little too much, I guess.
Talk about sliders a little bit. Now, you said that you guys had a hard time figuring out sliders. I know that for us personally, we talked about this last week. We had a
Mhm.
hard time finding that really good mixture. So, what were the things that you found easy to kind of have set and that just haven't moved much? And then, how did you guys start it? Do you start with like a base from Operation Sports? Do you start with your own base? Like, what is kind of the process behind how you guys find your sliders?
So me and my well, we're a committee, but there's two people that have the most time in my committee. It's me and what I would consider, I guess, my co-commissioner. He really dives into it. And so what we do is we try to build our own separate bases, and then we come together and kind of merge the two, and then we'll go to Operation Sports and see what they do. So between the three kind of formulas, we'll present a slider set for everyone to then test, and then we'll tweak it from there. Now, I can't tell you exactly what those numbers were. I can just tell you, based on all the patches, it's working. I think as well as it could work for us. One of the interesting things that nobody ever talks about, so I'd like to get your opinion on this, if you will. What about like pass interference and those type of rule-based sliders? Do you have trouble with those? What do you think of those? Because that's kind of been a hot button issue in my league. Where do you put pass interference? Because in real life, like I told somebody, that gets called 4 or 5 times a game in real life. But do you want that called in a simulation game? Some people would say yes, some people say no. So that's probably the biggest issue that I have that nobody ever talks about. I mean, people will talk about, oh, I want the pass rush here, but no one talks about the rule-based sliders. So I'd be interested in hear what you think about that.
I've heard some really interesting concepts recently. I can't remember. I think it's Pootie T that said on the podcast last week of they have found a slider setting where the computer will never jump off sides, and they do that for a reason, right? They do that to kind of counteract that instant shed user defensive line that happens, which is one of my hot button topics that I just loathe. And in my league, even though I think we've got some really amazing dudes and we've kind of found that niche for us that works. Um, at the end of the day, guys want to win football games. And so, they may use a linebacker for first and second down, but come third and long, you can bet your dollar they're going to go use their defensive line because they know they can instant shed in a second and they hit your quarterback in 2 seconds and get a
Mm-hmm.
punt out of it or maybe a turnover. So, again, I'm not going to get on that soapbox. But to get back to your original question, um, I think that every league has to kind of find that balance for them, right? And so for us, I do want to see it, um, but I don't want to see it. If I've built a 93 overall cornerback who has 95 awareness, who has discipline penalty,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to see him having 10 pass interference calls in a season. Like he shouldn't have that. So like there is that balance of we want to see it, but also like we don't want to see it 9 times a game because it's just not fun. Like I think holding right and offsides are
Yeah.
the two bigger ones. I do wish we'd seen pass interference more often, but I have seen it more often in the last couple Maddens. We do see it more often in this game. Not a ton because of our play style. You don't see a lot of guys going super deep often. But if you have a cornerback that doesn't have good traits, right, and somebody tries to go deep and they're burnt, you're probably going to get a pass interference call. So you do see it when we think you should see it, but we don't see it as often in our league because our guys play a style that isn't going to, we don't run verticals, we don't run, those types of plays, so you don't see it a ton. I wish you did see it a little more often on like post routes or corner routes, like pass interference on like short to intermediate plays, because I think the only time we see it is on those deep plays, and so that's something I'd like to see change for the future, Mads. But if you talk about like holding, if you talk about offsides, that's truly a balance because you want to see those plays, right? Because there's usually a lot of
Right.
holding plays in the NFL, but at the same time, like guys will just stop playing. Like if they're playing right, and regardless of if they built their team right, if they get 10 holding calls, they're just going to quit playing, right? And at the end of the day, there is that balance between this has to be fun at the end of the day. Yes, you have to have rules and it needs to be fair, and you guys for every community have to find that like mix for you, but at the end of the day, they have to have fun. And if you have so much stuff set to be realistic to where they're not having fun, you're gonna have a really, really hard time keeping a full league. And for us, we're a community-based league, right? And being full and having guys that want to be together is more important than trying to like emulate exactly what we see on Sundays. So that's kind of how we feel about it.
Well, I'm glad you said that because I think that's really key is striking the balance between fun and sim. Because I get this all the time with like I said, I mentioned earlier how we have an ego rule where you can only put up so many points and so much statistics.
You there?
Yeah,
Oh, you just stopped talking on me.
no, we're good. I think we're I don't know, the thing glitched out. But what I was saying was, I think it's a fine balance because we have like an ego rule that says you can only get so much statistics or you can only score so many points. And people say, well, Bill Belichick doesn't stop scoring. The Patriots, and I try to tell everyone, look, we can't pay coaches. If you want to go truly NFL, then I would have to pay you. I'd have to pay coordinators. I'd have to pay all these people. So at some level, we have to admit that we're playing a game. Like I try to make this the most pro-ready league that I can. Competitive to a point, but at some point, you just got to admit, like, okay, your user skills are better than this person, and we don't want to lose that person because he's a great guy. So we're going to tone it down. And I've I've kind of came to the conclusion that sometimes you just have to let those people come to that conclusion or find a different league that fits them. But it is true that you can't be truly simulation based or truly fun. You got to find a balance. And I think that's for everything.
No, I 1000% agree. Let's talk about Madden 19. Is there anything that's coming out that you guys are interested in that you're hearing that kind of piques your interest? I know a lot of people are doing like wish lists and stuff, but we're beyond that point, right? What's going to be in Madden 19 is going to be there. There may make some tweaks or some slight adjustments, but the game is probably almost a finished product by now with just like some fine tuning being done because we're so late before the game drops. So not going to do that, but what are you hearing that excites you, or maybe not hearing, and you're just kind of hoping for?
Well, it's two questions. For Madden, I'm hoping that we just get more of a physics engine type of setting where things truly matter. Like I talked to my team. We're so sick of that rocket. Uh, well, I call it rocket ball, where the ball gets tipped by either the receiver or the cornerback, and the thing goes straight up in the air, and who knows when that thing's gonna fall. But it always falls. It seems like straight into the defense's hands every time. It doesn't seem like the offense opponent ever reacts to it. I guess he'd be an opponent in that situation, a defender. So I would like to see true integration in that regard, where both the receiver and the DB are fighting for the ball when the ball is a live ball. I don't think they have enough of that. I would like to see fumbles be more organic. I think a lot of times the fumble will happen, and then we just don't know what's going to happen. We just got to watch it at that point. We're spectators. I wish there was a way we could integrate some kind of button, even if it was a button match, kind of like we have fight for the yardage, where you have to hit a button first, just something. Because it seems like when there's a fumble, you're just spectating. I mean, they make the animation, and I've heard some people say, "Well, you got to get this close." It doesn't matter. I've seen the ball get tipped, kicked, 1,000 times. It's a scripted animation, and I want to get away from some of those things. Now, I understand some animations have to carry out. Like, that's fine. Let's bring back an animation I actually like, gang tackling. I know you mentioned on the first podcast. I mean, these are things that they've had in the game, and there's always that thing. Is like, well, do you want them to bring back old things? Like, sure, I want them to bring back all the old things that worked. I don't want them to bring back things that didn't work, but anything that worked that we actually liked, go ahead and bring back. I don't mind that because I think if you get all those things and they actually work in the same package, that it presents a better game, and that's all I really want.
So
Um,
talk about that for a second. Then, like, what are a feature or two that you used to have that you'd like to see them bring back immediately?
I would like them to limit certain animations to certain skill sets. I think that would be really great. Like, I know this is drastic, but there should be a certain animation for a hit stick for a 90 hit power linebacker, and then a 40, hit power kicker shouldn't have that animation. Um, they need to have signature moves, and they flirted with the idea right when they first brought the hit stick. Ray Lewis could do it, and they really sold it as like an exclusive thing, a special thing, and they've gotten further and further away from that to the point they tuck it out, which I'm like, that's not the answer. It was a good feature, and then they just stopped developing it and tuck it out, and then brought it back, and it was like, hey, look, we brought it back. Congratulations. They need to improve it. It's there. The bones are there. The structure is there. I would just like to see some of these animations become exclusive, so then players matter. Um, I think even competitive leagues will agree that the ratings don't matter, and so anything you can do to make the ratings matter, or skill sets matter, traits matter, those would all be huge things.
Talk about how you guys kind of wrap a Madden up. So, every league kind of does things differently, especially as we get to the summer months, right? We have that summer lull. Some leagues experience it, some leagues do not. I think everybody experiences it at some level, but what is kind of the way that your league handles the summer? How do you fade out of one Madden and into another?
See, I kind of actually embrace it. I think it actually kind of helps a bit to take a little bit of a break. Now, I always let my community speak in that regard of when we break. Some people, I remember one Madden. I don't remember which one it is, and it's not good. So I won't sell out Madden like that. But one year we stopped after 4 seasons. Just people weren't just they were not having fun with it. So we stopped after 4 seasons. We went as far as 7 seasons, I think, once. But so we try to play about 5 seasons, and then after that, I give my community full control over what we do. Whether it's we reboot, we do a draft like setting. Do you want to reboot? Do you want to do any creative things like that, or do you want to just keep going? And it kind of varies from there. But I think a break is actually a good thing because it ramps up that anticipation for Madden. I know there's some leagues that say, well, if you don't go all year round, you're not a real league. I just think it kind of creates that Christmas like environment for me. People unwrapping a new game. Where if you play 2 weeks into Madden, I just find that people get a little too worn.
That's interesting. I know every league just does feel a little bit different about that. So let's stay there and talk about your CFM, right? What advice, you've got 10 years into yours, which is really impressive, right? And for a community to be together that long is a very impressive achievement and something to be proud of. So, I think I always get approached by guys who think it's easy, right? And think that, oh, I can do this, right? And we've all done that, right? We meet guys that are in our leagues and they think they can do it better or they think that they can do it. And
Mm-hmm.
so, what advice would you give to a brand new commissioner who's wanting to start something for Madden 19? What advice would you give them to get things going?
Focus on what got you here. Like I've said in the beginning, if you notice, I said we were built around community. We We played, we had United States members, we had Australian members, we had all these members, and in the world, and it was built around this. Well, we want the best Madden player in the world. Okay. Well, that concept didn't work, but what worked was community. And so what I think what was important about that was we built a Madden CFM around community, around camaraderie, and that's really what we held on to over 10 years. Is we're not a competitive league. We're not the most active Twitter league. We don't care about awards. I told people I don't want awards. Awards to me bring more negative attention than good attention. And I get a lot of backlash over that saying, you can't say you don't want. I'm like, look, organic things will happen like this DaddyLeauges interview podcast. But I don't want people to say, oh yeah, look at what they're doing. It's so great. They need an award. I want them to be like, look what they got. I want someone else to go ahead and say, I want that. Let's build it. So going back to what you said, I think three things really. You got to know what you want. You got to have a short-term goal and a long-term goal. So and then two, you have to build your core around that goal. So for us, it was community. I've heard some leagues say, well, we want to be competitive. Well, then that's your goal. You want to be a competitive league, Some people say, well, my league, we want to be an all-around league, and we want to do it this way. Okay, well, that's your goal. But what's your long-term goal? And I think that's where a lot of commissioners go wrong. They have this short-term view of like, we're going to do it this way. We're going to have a fantasy draft. Well, okay, what's your long-term goal? So I would say have your mission statement in order. And then two, don't worry about being full. I think a lot of commissioners go wrong about that. And they focus on, well, we have to have 32 before we start. You don't. You need a core group of guys that truly buy into what you're selling. And then what will happen is if you can get 15, 20 guys, those other guys will come in and they'll slowly start to buy what you're selling at your market. But if you don't know what you are, you're not going to sell any products.
Talk about the CFM community. Now, you were a part of those roundtables that we kind of got going, and so was Pootie T and several others, right? And you even started a Discord chat for several CFM, commissioners and leaders, and it's been deathly quiet in there for a very long time, even by you, right, who created it. Because again,
Right.
people just get busy running their own leagues. I get it, right? But where do you kind of view the CFM community, and where do you see it going moving forward?
See, I'm going to get a lot of backlash for this because I don't look at the community as one thing. Okay. Like a lot of people say, well, the CFM community is this and it's podcasts and it's, game changers. And oh my God, if I get to meet Rex, I've made it. I don't look at that because if I meet Rex at an EA Play event and I become huge, let's say I'm recognized as one of the best leagues, I still have to come to my home base, log into Discord or whatever platform we use, and still run my league. So at the end of the day, my league is truly my focus. So all I do on this podcast or any other podcast I'll ever be on is promote my league and what we do. Now, if other people come to me with some good ideas and some positivity, I'll respond to it. We tried Twitter. It didn't really work for us, to be honest. Found a lot more negativity than positivity. I got off of it. Some people say, "Oh my God, you're not with the times." Okay, well, if I'm not with the times, I guess my league will damper and will lose members, and maybe it's my time to walk away. That time hasn't come yet, so I must be doing something right. Now, I just didn't like all the negativity in there. There was leagues that were like, "Oh well, this league should win this award. This league should win this award. We do this podcast," and I'm like, "Okay, I can chat 5 hours a day on that, or I can focus on my league." And so I kind of like being underground. You know this. Okay, so it's homegrown. I want to enjoy the fruits of my labor, which is my league. I don't need to promote it. I don't need to, Twitter just didn't provide a platform where some of these newer innovative ideas of getting people together. Now, if someone like you or League Crawler comes at me, I know they've had some contact with me recently. Those are great connections, and I'll welcome those. But I just don't chase things anymore. I'm too old for that, I guess.
Where do you think that the community, though, could benefit each other? Like you mentioned something that I think is intriguing, right? And something that I'm trying to help do with innovative ideas and the sharing of ideas. But where could the community be a very great asset?
It could be a great asset if we find this idea of unity. But the problem is everyone's into this esport idea. So they're either trying to promote their league to become the new esport, or they're trying to get the attention of Rex. But Rex doesn't know what it's like to run a CFM. If they want to know how to run a CFM or how to get attention or how to have a good podcast, they should talk to some of these top leagues. They should talk to, Madden Bomber League or you guys at Grown Folks or me. But everyone's uh, chasing this idea of fame of, oh my God, well, maybe we could broadcast it on Twitter and get it on EA Sports. We need to come together in our homes like we're doing now and just talking. That's what we need to do. But I don't think it's ever going to happen because all these game developers are on Twitter, and so all these leagues, if you got a dime in your pocket, they're trying to sell that dime to talk to the developer of the game, or they're trying to promote this interview or what have you. And it's like, well, why did you get into it? Did you get into it to make money? Because I did not.
Yeah, I agree. Let's rapid fire a couple questions here as we put a bow on everything. Favorite all time Madden game?
Oh, that's hard because my favorite game would have probably been my first one, which was with Marshall Fall. Um, the most frustrating but the most innovative game was the Michael Vick one. My high school friend, he was a huge Michael Vick fan. I'm telling you what, he was unstoppable in that game of Madden. Unstoppable. There's nothing you could do. And this is before any simulation type rules were established. It was just a bro code, and he loved scrambling left, scrambling right, and then throwing deep every time you brought the quarterback fly up. So those were kind of the most fun, just childish things that got me into it. But I would say another league or another Madden I really held my attention was the one they did the Larry Fitzgerald and Troy Polamalu cover, because that was when I founded Gridiron Gamers, and we found each other and kind of built what we have now, and I'm very proud of that. So
It was also the last time we ever got a demo, which I really miss having. So, favorite all time Madden player to have on your team?
Kelvin Johnson,
Why?
Megatron. You could literally, I'm a Lions fan too, but you could literally just throw it up to that guy. He had the speed of a small guy, but the height of a big guy. It was impressive.
Any fun routines you do before a game, or fun kind of things that you need to do to be able to focus for a CFM game?
I try to dry my hands as much as possible. I'll be honest, my hands get incredibly sweaty. They always have. I don't know why. So I always try to dry my hands because I always know if I don't, my finger's going to come off the trigger at the most important time, and I'll stop running. And that's happened a few times. So I try to avoid that.
Any kind of special things that you do to help your team be successful?
Um, I try to team build the best way possible. And I like this philosophy. And some people in my league buy into it, some don't. I like to build the biggest measurable guys I can find. So I like my defensive tackles fast, but also big. I like my free safeties over 6'4". So if you're not 6'4" as a free safety, I try not to look your way. I try to get the biggest corners. I try to build the biggest team, literally.
What's one little small tip that you could give? You may have gave them away already just now, but maybe one small tip to building your favorite Madden team.
Literally build big and physical. at every position, especially corner. I think pursuit is really huge for corners. A lot of people sleep on pursuit for corners. I'm telling you, it's huge.
Favorite all-time Madden game that you played, like physical CFM game that's just one that sticks out to you as your favorite one that you ever played?
Ooh, that's tough. Just going back with some of my close divisional opponents I've had over the years. I think I've been to the playoffs a few times, obviously, but there's nothing like a good divisional game especially when you guys are good friends and you know you close in skills, and you go back twice a year. Those are key.
What's kind of your favorite time in Madden? Do you like it like in August when it first drops? Do you like it like in October once you've figured it out a little bit? Do you like it at the end? Like, when's your favorite stage that you're like, you know what, I'm really enjoying this game right now?
I said the sweet spot for any Madden. I'd like to hear your opinion even on this, but I think it's season three. Because season one, everyone's stock teams. So the Browns, for example, are going to be worse than the Patriots or the Jets. But season three, everyone's put their imprint on the team, but everyone's still really in the Madden at that point. So I feel like that's like the sweet spot.
Yeah, I think I'm more of a season four, season five type guy. I know that you guys take a break. We don't take a break. So we get to like the very, very end. We may take like a 3 or 4 week break, 2 week break, somewhere in there at the very, very end, as you can hear my family's up and about. But I like season four, season five. By then, we have a lot of Madden generated players. Guys have gotten a really great feel for their team, and they can really put, like you said, like building their team towards how they want. By the time you get to season four, season five, they've either gotten there or they have not gotten there, and that just makes it a really fun thing. So Logan, thanks for being with us today. Why don't you give me some like last closing thoughts about your CFM? Any last little nuggets that you want to share, and then tell people where they can find you.
You can find us at our Daddy Leagues page, so Daddy Leagues slash GIG18. You can. We also are on Twitter. It's not like I abandoned Twitter completely. It's just I try to block out the noise, the negativity. You can find that at Gridiron Gamers underscore. So there it is on that front. The thing I would say though is just have fun. I think a lot of people forget that. Like, this is fun. This is a great opportunity that Daddy Leagues has presented us. And I'll tell you what, to give you a little shameless plug for Daddy Leagues, I've had hours of conversations with just guys after games or what have you about our league. It helps our podcast, obviously, but just going through some of the statistics and looking at like rookie of the year, and so what Daddy Leagues has done has really helped us engage in the fun as well. So anyone who hasn't tried a CFM, or if you haven't taken your CFM to the next level, you got to have a Daddy League.
Yep, I agree, and it's not a shameless plug because Daddy Leagues helps us host these things, or I host them for Daddy Leagues. So, look, it's been a whole lot of fun. I also don't think that they're competition. I think they're two pretty separate entities that I still hope one day kind of combine forces because I think that they can make for one hell of a center. But if you're not involved in League Crawler, you need to be. Go check out leaguecrawler.com. It's just a great place to advertise your league and a great place for you to just advertise for owners, right? And a great place to rate owners. Everybody's going to have a different experience with owners, but it's a great place to go and give owner ratings. I'm a big fan of what they do. I'm hoping to maybe get him on the show. He doesn't run a CFM anymore, but I know he's very involved with like Madden Bomber League, and he knows a thing or two about CFM. So hopefully we'll get him on the show one time. But Logan, thanks so much for being on the show with us. If you want to be a part of Logan's Discord, make sure that you hit him up on Discord. Do you know your Discord number? Can you share your Discord number if people want to add you?
I don't know my Discord number. That's so
Totally fine. We will.
unprofessional of me.
I will look them up in the description on this YouTube video. You can look and get Logan's Discord number. I'll put mine on there. I'll also put Pootie T's on there, even though Pootie T and myself are a little easier to find. We're not as underground as our buddy Logan here. But if you guys want to be involved in the Discord that he has up, I'll make sure we post his number and you guys can add him on Discord and ask to be added to that. It's pretty quiet in there right now, but I think that that'll start firing up here pretty soon. If you're a commissioner or a league leader that would like to be on this one-on-one talk, definitely hit me up. We'll get you on there. Make sure you check out DaddyLeagues.com for all of your Madden CFM needs. There's a lot of really great articles. He's made some changes where leagues are posting their league articles on there. These podcasts are on there. And then, of course, there's a really great forum that works, which is so important. Forums have to work if you're going to use them. But there's a really great forum that you can advertise for your league and talk news and talk all kinds of stuff on there. Some really great people that are out there. So for Logan and for Daddy Leagues, thanks so much for tuning into the podcast this week. We'll see you next time. Peace.